Prime Minister to open the grand finals.
By ideals that are provided with the government. People are brainwashed, not knowing what rights they're deserving, what rights that they need to be granted of. Now, as side proposition, we believe that this is a problem, and there needs to be a step in order to inform these North Korean citizens for a better society. Now, as the Prime Minister of this debate, I would like to first state our stance of this debate, then define some key terms of the motion, move on to the policy, and state our substantive cases. First, about the necessity to enlighten and liberate these people. Secondly, the destabilization of North Korea. Now, moving on to our stance. Our stance as side proposition for this debate is that we would subsidize the organizations that send anti-communist propaganda to North Korea. Now, before we move on, we'd like to define subsidize as financially supporting these organizations. Secondly, organizations the government has chosen to pick, and thirdly, propaganda, anti-communist propaganda, as propaganda that emphasizes the importance of democracy and what kind of rights there should be granted when the government itself is not granting them the rights that they need. Now, let's move on to the policy. Our policy as side proposition is that we would like to financially subsidize first plan reports on where the money will be used that is given by the subsidies. And secondly, the government will not subsidize every single propaganda. They will select which one to subsidize and according to their own standards. Yeah. And we believe that it is not the burden for us to prove or choose the standards that are required for subsidizing, because it's simply just the government's decision what to subsidize or not. This is justifiable because openly allowing the subsidizing rather brings transparency to what is going on and what kind of propaganda that they are going for. Now, our value of this debate will be security, and what we mean by security is that we want to secure these people and the nation itself. Now, moving on to our case. Before moving on, I want to provide you with the burden of proof. And first, the burden of proof of proposition was to show you what propaganda is and why it should be the propaganda. Secondly, why does it have to be openly exposed? Thirdly, why South Korea needs to do it. Now, moving on to our substantive case, no thank you, sir, about the necessity to enlighten and liberate people. Now, first, what's happening in North Korea? As I said before, North Korean citizens are brainwashed by the government. They have not learned what their other kind of governmental system has existed, not learned what rights that they need to be guaranteed. Now, they believe that their regime is the best and not know the benefits or the harms of other governmental systems. We believe that because there's no chance to know what's actually happening, and because North Korean citizens also deserve the right to know what's actually happening and what's going on around the earth, that propaganda is needed and we should take the policy. Now, how does sending propaganda actually solve this problem? By sending a propaganda, it is actually sending and encouraging to show what is extremely important. It shows a different form of a government, that a different form of government actually exists. That there are other different forms, and other different forms of government gives you these certain rights when the communist government, their own regime, is not doing so. We believe that by we're not saying that their whole life philosophy will change at this moment when they receive a propaganda. But what we're trying to say is that it's going to arise questions from North Korean citizens, because they know, they may be questioned, maybe the government is doing something wrong because my brother is starving right now. Maybe there's a problem with the government in this current situation. Now, we believe in order to show them and rouse the curiosity from these citizens, that propaganda is needed. So why is right to know actually important for these citizens? Now, North Korea has to know, as I said before, what rights they need to be guaranteed. Now, they are not teach the rights what they're guaranteed in other forms of government. Like, for example, the Miranda law is there to teach you and show you and tell you what rights that you're guaranteed in that certain situation. We believe that the same applies in this situation, that they need to know in order to stand up for the rights that they do deserve, ladies and gentlemen. Now, moving on to our second substantive case, no thank you, that the destabilization of North Korea. No matter what kind of society you're living in, whether it's a monarchy or a democracy or a communist society, we believe that the power stays in the people. Now, what happens if the government is not supported by the people is that its policy now loses effectiveness. It is ineffective because people do not listen to the government. Now, we believe that if there are questions arising, people won't be able to listen to the government brainwash like they have been before. So frequent riots may occur, and the government won't be able to control the whole citizen or the curiosity that is being arised through the policy. Now, we see many nations that have fell into history because of the people's curiosity and the people's belief that the government is doing wrong things. Now, because North Korean citizens are now arising suspicions towards what is happening, new ways to think, they are provided with new ways to think, and now get the opportunity to actually think, undermine the government itself. Now, this leads into two results. First, the government can be undermined to the extent that the citizens will refuse to listen to what the government is trying to do and what the government orders them to do, which leads to the government unable to function on their own. And secondly, government might, if that's not the case, government can be forced to listen to citizens in order to pull discontent, and because the power lies in the people, ladies and gentlemen. So if you believe that the North Korean citizens do have the right to be enlightened, to know what their rights are they are granted of, that you believe that we can actually destabilize the system by doing so, you vote for proposition. Thank you.